Hi, everyone. Look who's here. It's Irish Granny. So excited. Hi, Ron.
Thanks.
We already have family in the house.
Aw.
Love it. Love it. People are already popping in. Hi, Kevin from Loving Vibrations Tarot is hanging out with us today.
Oh.
But we'll take a minute as everybody starts popping in.
Right.
But I am just so just blessed. I know. Here she is. I was just saying, as soon as I say, oh, here we're going to go live, guess who comes in?
Hollywood.
I want to be on screen. Hi, Tammy. Hi, Marvita. So, yeah, I am so blessed that you have come and to hang out with us today.
Oh, I feel honored that you asked me. Flabbergasted, actually.
So, there's Lucienne. Hi, Lucienne. She's saying hello to you too.
It's a beautiful name, by the way.
I know, isn't that awesome?
And one of my middle names is Lucy.
Oh, well, there you go.
There you go.
And here's Lisa.
Oh, I know her.
Oh, Lucienne, you know Lucienne.
Yes,
yeah. And here's Lisa. A lot of us here today are follow you on YouTube and
Oh, now don't make me cry. I got something in my eye already.
Prince Charming's mom. Yeah, and here's Ronald saying hello. He's from Canada, all the way from Canada. Yeah.
Love Canada.
Such a beautiful country. And he lives out in the country, actually. So.
Well, you know, they're opening their borders in August.
Oh, really? I didn't know.
If you've got a vaccination card, yeah.
Ooh, I have to find mine. Can we? Do you know if we can
do that? Might come in handy.
If we lose are we screwed?
No, because doesn't your doctor have?
I don't know, because you know some people just went to the grocery store and got vaccinated.
There must be a registry like with the State Department of Health.
Must be.
Did they take your name?
Oh yeah, they take down all your information, health information.
It's on somebody's computer.
It's all digital. Ron says it's all digital. Okay. Well, that would be cool. So I'm just kind of hanging out waiting for people to pop in. Hi, Nancy.
Where is Ron from in Canada?
Ron, what part of the country are you from in Canada? I forget. We have a few Canadians that hang out and that are in our family here, and they're all from different parts. So I always kind of forget where.
Well, I found out today from a crossword puzzle, it's the largest English-speaking country. Didn't know that.
Wow. And I absolutely am not even shocked that you do the crossword puzzle. Is that on the daily? I mean, this is Inquiring Minds. So Inquiring Minds want to know, do you do the crossword on a daily?
I do it daily, and I do it in ink.
In ink. Stop
but
the press.
I'm not shy about writing over the mistakes. You know, it's never perfect.
Okay, and how about Sunday edition?
Yeah. I do both of them. There's two on Sunday, and the word jumble. My poor husband.
The word jumble.
The Sudoku thing.
Yeah,
I hate that.
I am such a nerd when it comes to all that as well. So I love the crossword puzzle. I love the Sudoku. I love the word jumble. And I know Lucienne says, okay, I got to put this up. Ink. Yeah, right. I know. Hi, greeter. Hugs to you. Hugging you all.
That's how one of my daughters met her husband. Going to work on the bus, and he'd watch her do the crossword.
Oh my God.
He finally told her he was so impressed.
They greeter saying hello. You might recognize her name as well. She's
Teresa.
Yeah, Teresa. Yeah.
My oldest daughter's name.
Oh.
My mother's name. And one of my sisters.
Now, well, yeah, because, okay, so, you know, stepping into that a little bit, you grew up Catholic. You've been very vocal about that.
Mea culpa.
Now, and very traditional, it sounds like, as far as that goes, as far as names and like that.
Oh yeah.
So there, I think Mary, Marie, what are some of the names that go with it? Middle names? So you get your name and then you get that Catholic middle name.
You
right?
usually always get Mary. My middle name is Mary Lucy.
Okay.
Double barreled.
Okay, got it.
But yeah, it's usually Mary and then a family name. Almost all of my siblings, I'm the oldest of 12, and almost all of my siblings have Gaelic names. I was the first one, and I was a compromise because my mother didn't want to offend anybody. So rather than one side of the family was Ellen and the other side was Eleanor, they made me Helen. But all my other siblings, almost, except for Teresa, have Gaelic names. And my children have Gaelic names, except my daughter, Teresa.
Okay. Wow, that is so cool. I love the idea of family names and where they come from and following that journey with the names.
Well, they have a lot of...
It's in the Bible too, right?
They have a lot of weight in Irish culture because your name, even your first name, tells the world a lot about your politics, where you grew up, your social class. You'd never believe that. But yeah, I had an aunt who was living in the north, old lady, and I was advised, don't write her first name on the envelope because she'll become a target. Because it was equated with, different politics.
And politics. Interesting.
Yeah.
I just have to give a thank you to Blue Mountain Tarot. Blessings to you. Thank you so much. She just gave a donation to the channel. Sweet. So, and that's interesting because we're going to do a little jumping, and we can do that because we can't, just because we can.
Because you're in charge.
I'm in charge. I just learned today because I was watching a series that the Greys, right? We have the Pleiadians, and then we have the Greys have different. They have different. It's not really classes, but they they describe it by energy. What energy you bring is kind of where you are placed, where you work, or what you do.
Oh, interesting. Oh.
And it's based on height. So if you're a short gray, you're more of like that person who gets it done. You know what I mean? They have more of a higher, and they're excited, like that. And then they have the medium height. So you have the short, then the medium height, and they're more I don't know. It's hard to, intellectual maybe something.
Mid-management.
And then you have the tall, right? So they've been around a long time, and they have the old school kind of.
So even the aliens have heightism.
Yeah. So I just learned that today. So I want to just
so interesting.
Shout that out as far as, because you were talking about the names showing that, well, they have their height. You can't get away from it. However, that being said, you can change your station if your energy.
You change your energy. Yeah. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I know from what I've read that there are different heights of grays. Not all grays are created the same.
Right.
And the taller ones, relatively speaking, closer to 5 feet rather than 3 feet. The taller ones would be more in charge.
Right. She just out of my like zero ability to communicate well. Lucien figured out what I was saying.
Lucien, you're always trying to get me to subscribe to Gaia TV. It's going to happen. Keep the pressure off.
Oh my gosh, no. It's serious. That's serious.
It's a good.
She got me onto that, and I am addicted, guys.
Yeah,
I even morning coffee, Gaia.
Yeah. Now, do you watch it on the computer or on the television?
I do it on my iPad.
Oh.
Yeah. The fancy iPad you have right in front of you. So Ron is from Quebec. Okay,
Quebec.
So Quebec. He probably already
Ça
answered
va.
that so many times. I missed it. He is from Quebec, Canada. It's near Montreal. I know that you
Oui.
have to drive out a little bit because it's out in the country.
Je le parle comme an American. Parlez-vous, y'all?
And then throw a little Gaelic in there.
Oh no, I don't speak Gaelic. My parents were fluent, but it is just a really difficult language, and I like languages, but I never learned it. And I think partly their intention was to keep us in the dark because they spoke with each other when they didn't want us to know what they were talking about. They discussed my husband right in front of him in Gaelic when they first met him. Poor man. I figured if that didn't put him off, he was a keeper.
Oh, yeah. The Ron says, wow, merci.
Oh, il n'y a pas de quoi. That's about the limit. Yeah. That's it.
Done. Okay. So we've got a good group in here now. So Melissa says, Helen, you speak French like me.
Well, my teacher in high school was from Oklahoma. So draw your own conclusion. Nice lady, but ooh.
Right. So Greeter says she just subscribed. Okay. So since we're on this, you guys, if you have not subscribed to Irish Granny Tarot, you're missing out. I'm telling you. I don't even know how I found you, but all of a sudden there you were.
From Denise, maybe Denise.
It was divine providence, and there you are, and you're talking through a book. You're doing a book report, and that's exactly right. It literally was like the Six of Cups to me. I felt like really coming home. And I just thought, oh my gosh, I absolutely love this, and the way you went through the books and brought through the information. I just was like this. I'm like, I felt like the old days where you're listening to the radio and they're telling a story, and this is me. I am just in it.
I'm very touched. Thank you. Well, it's really an act of Christian charity for my children. They're so sick of listening to me. I think in the past 5 years, every sentence I start with, wait till you hear this. And, they're youngish, and it's just hard when you're trying to raise a family or start a business, a career, and all this is going on. It's overwhelming. And I had to do this because I had to get it out. I felt absolutely driven to get it out. And they were about ready to run screaming for the hills.
They're like, yeah. Well, you found your place, and you found your extended family here because we all just love you.
Oh my God, thank you so much. It's so nice. I haven't seen another human being in so long.
I know.
Well, my husband, but that's a life sentence, right?
Yeah, right there. Yeah, right. So we're having a lot of people are subscribing right now. They're saying, I just subscribed, yay, and waving.
Wow,
and so super excited. And some said they subscribed a couple of weeks ago when I mentioned you.
That's so kind. Thank you so much.
So Ellen here is saying that she worked for Rosetta Stone.
I see that. I'm so impressed. Gaelic almost died out.
Oh.
If you want to destroy a culture, you destroy its language first. And there was a concerted effort to do that. Speaking Gaelic became a capital crime in Ireland for a long time.
Right.
Well, it was an occupied country. It still is.
Yeah.
And they punished people for speaking their own language. And it was very effective. But now it's required in all of the schools. There's no such thing as like a private school. The government runs all the schools in Ireland, and every single 100% of the country is required to learn Gaelic. And they brought it back from extinction. but it's
it's such an incredible. I mean, it even just gives me the chills. It's such an incredible language, and I feel
beautiful.
It's very similar to our English language lacks bringing the full message through. We can try to wrap words around to bring a message through and feelings behind it. I feel like Gaelic captures a lot that the English language doesn't. So you can say something in Gaelic and it captures all around what you want to say as well. So I feel like, yeah.
Well, they had an oral tradition, and for many millennia, I guess, everything was passed on in a circle, with the elderly passing on the stories, and that tradition, it's embedded in the culture now. Irish love to sit around and tell a story. I went to visit my family because my whole family is over there. Not my siblings, but cousins, aunts, uncles, everybody else. And it's really interesting to get off an airplane. And the joke you told 7 hours ago went over like a lead balloon, and everybody looked at you like you had 3 heads.
Right.
You tell it 7 hours later in a different country, and everybody gets it immediately.
Exactly.
Really interesting.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
And I've learned a lot of the history from that series that is a book and also a series on TV or one of the what is it? You're gonna laugh. You've read it too. A lot of sex in it, but there is
the Outlander.
The Outlander.
Well, that's Scottish.
Oh, the Scottish. That's true, but still the history comes in about the conflict and.
Yeah, they do have that. Those books. I'm not into bodice rippers as a rule, but those books are really well researched for historical detail.
They really are, and
they've managed to do a pretty good job of translating them into visual. Usually, they ruin books.
I was shocked. I was shocked.
And you can go on Lion Brand Yarn, and you can get free patterns for all the little knit things that she wears.
Okay, wait, we have to write that down.
Yeah.
Okay, Outlanders. Yeah. Okay, what is it?
Lion Brand Yarn, Lion Brand Yarn, and they have free patterns, and they're based on the Outlander series. Mitts. What do they call them?
I know. I wear them myself.
Caplets and scarves. I mean, really cute. Really, really cute.
Okay, wait. I'm challenged. Lion Iron Brand.
Just Lion.
Oh.
And she's Irish. The woman who plays the main character is actually Irish. Yeah.
Lion Brand.
Yarn.
Everybody, the family's laughing at me right now. They know how challenged I am about writing stuff in.
It's not a big deal. It's okay.
Okay, so see, Luciana already had it down and a whole extra sentence.
Oh, they just go online. You can just order it. Google it. I never leave the house. Just Google it.
Yeah, that's me. I don't leave the house either. Okay. And if I do, I'm masked up, everyone.
Oh, I'm telling you, you just would not believe this area. Just unbelievable.
Yeah, we need to pray for Helen. She lives in a red, deep red state.
You're going to have to light a candle.
Not a state, but deep red area. Yeah.
It's a pocket of red. It's not the state, but
the pocket. Yeah.
The neighborhood. Yeah.
Hi, Tanya. All right. So a little more we want to know about you. Okay. So, you come from the country. And so we know that you have this, you have the magic in you already. But when did it start really, the intuitiveness and stuff you start really recognizing it and working with it in your own life?
Well, it's hard to separate. because it is so inherently a part of the culture.
Yeah.
When I was a little girl, my mother would be outside hanging up laundry, speaking Gaelic to the leprechauns in the trees. And when I was really young, it scared the daylights out of me. When I got a little bit more sophisticated, I don't know, 11 or 12, I thought she was crazy. But, you know, I've come full circle. My mother was psychic. Her father was psychic. My oldest daughter is psychic. And nobody ever did anything about it except casually mention, oh, by the way. You know? And I always picked up energy, but I would never have been able to articulate what it was I was feeling. I would just feel awful about a thing or a place or a person or the opposite, and later it would prove to be true. Mm-hmm. I sometimes have precognitive dreams. I'm not, you know, I so admire, for example, Linda G, who can just sit there and hear what it is she needs to hear. Mm-hmm. It doesn't work that way for me, although it does with crossword puzzles.
See?
I can sit down
with it's working,
and I just know how to fill it out without really reading the full. I mean, it's funny. See, I get stuck.
I think you can do that. It's just trusting that you're getting it. So you trust it when you're doing the crossword puzzle because it's familiar. Yeah. It's trusting. I feel like you have it. It's just trusting that you're getting.
This process, doing this channel, I've made leaps and bounds. I've always been fascinated with the paranormal, fascinated with psychic ability, always trying to interpret people's dreams and my own dreams, and fully convinced that I was psychic, even though there was nothing developed or organized about it at all. However, the pandemic changed all that.
Yeah.
I had to find some meaning in it. The fact that people were so many people were dying, I had to find a reason for it. And in the process, one day I just ordered some tarot cards. I don't know why. And they really resonated for me. I don't know. I'm young with it. I'm new to it. So always learning. And I always love it when my viewers will comment and they'll say, well, I did the cards with you and this is what I did.
Yes.
I love that.
Yes. Isn't that fabulous?
How I learned by watching all of you guys. And
I love it. Yeah. So I'm not very good at the tarot myself, but I love using that tool just to engage. So, you know, information comes in, I can tell you the information and tell you what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing and all that. But it's fun to then back it up with, you know, pull up the cards and go, oh, look, it's saying the same thing, even though I don't really know what it's saying, you know.
Well, I think it has a lot to do with your neurological connections. I don't think you can separate the physiological, the physics, I don't think you can separate any of it. And you have the ability to tune in. For me, who is so book addicted, the tarot tells a visual story to me.
Oh, perfect.
I put them out there and it's like, oh, of course. Not always, you know.
No, but
a couple of times where I've just been, what is this mess? You know, but yeah, I can see a story laid out.
Oh, that's so fabulous. Yes. You just got a new subscriber.
Oh, that's so fun.
That's so fun. You guys are going to love it. Like, you got to, and go back and listen to all her 1, 2, 3s. She has series, right? So she goes through these books. Okay. So I do kind of want to bring up the book. I know she just went through a book, and I asked her to, and there it is, the secret of the Great Pyramid, and you know, it was going to be like a little book club, and we were going to read together, and then I watched your 3 episodes of going through that book. And so I don't know if you were confused when I said, well, I'm so excited about all the pictures. And you're like, what pictures? Because here's the book I read.
Oh, a different book completely. Oh.
Secrets of the Great Pyramid by Peter Tompkins is the one.
Was it basically the same subject?
It was, ironically, but mine had pictures. So.
Well, this has pictures, but the author is completely different.
Oh,
and
yeah.
You know what's so interesting? After I finished doing the 3 episodes, somebody got in touch with me and told me that there was a documentary on YouTube that basically covered this, which would have made my life much easier. I took notes. I take things very literally, and I thought I was getting an assignment. So I took notes. I mean, I don't want to hand in my term paper late, you know?
Right. No, I know. And you and when I was watching the videos, I'm like, well, it's basically almost the same.
Who is the author of your book as far as what's his relationship to this guy, Houdin?
I don't know their relationship together. Peter Tompkins, though,
sounds familiar.
He's like he would be one to believe in ETs and like that.
So maybe he's coming at it from that direction more.
Well, I feel like it was very similar because, of course, it was written back in the day that you don't really talk about ETs yet.
Oh no!
But he definitely, it was like, you know, basically there's no way at that time that they would have this ability to make this on their own. You know, that's kind of what he was saying. But it's fascinating, the pyramids, and every little detail means something, like even where they're placed and like that kind of stuff interests me.
Yeah.
And of course, but he breaks down each little section.
Oh yeah.
You know, it was definitely, the pictures helped me get through it.
Yeah, the physics was a little tough going. They were explaining why the architecture, the engineering of the internal design prevented it from collapsing. And, you know, it was all falling on deaf ears. I don't know. This is not my thing. My eyes start to cross. The minute you say vectors or, you know.
Seriously, Tompkins. Now, Tompkins. I want to show you. He's a journalist, American. Peter Tompkins is an American journalist. Here he is.
His name is familiar. I wonder what else.
Yeah. So his famous book, which we might want to read next, is The Secret Life of Plants.
Oh, God, I read that years ago.
Oh, okay. So you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but well, yes and no. I mean, I read it years ago, so
The Secret
I may as well not have ever read it, but I do. Yeah, I'm familiar. Yeah.
And he's into these mysteries like this. So anyway, I just thought it was funny that I know, I'm like, and I think I text Lucienne. I'm like, Lucienne, I think she read the wrong book.
Well, there's no such thing.
I know, and that's what we said. That's what we ended up saying. We're like, oh, it's meant.
This is actually, I think, if you had to read any book about the archaeology of this area, this would be the most cutting edge, up to date theory. It's not accepted by mainstream status quo type archaeologists. It's a huge threat, you know, to the establishment.
Yes.
But it's so simple. I mean, even I could understand what they were trying to get at, talking about the actual physics of it. So simple, and it seems now, once they've said it, it seems so obvious. But it flies in the face of a lot of theories. You know, people believe, I have one book called The Giza Death Star that postulates that those hallways, those ramps, were actually passage for rays or water or magnetism under pressure to create a weapon, an extinction weapon. There are people who believe that they built the thing so that it wasn't a burial site, it was a weapon. And there are people who believe that they built it by levitating the rocks, by using water pressure, all kinds of theories. And I don't know. I don't have the answers, but I don't think that any one theory completely excludes all other theories. I think that it's probably going to prove to be a bit of a mishmash. And without giving it away, the book I'm reading for Saturday actually explains a little bit. He didn't realize that that's what he was doing, but he explains a little bit about how this advanced sort of architecture could have occurred. It's really interesting. So that's all I'll say.
Oh, very exciting. And I can't wait. The one thing, Helen, that I've learned about our human experience is that we're basically ants. We really don't know anything. And when we think we know something,
and we really don't know.
It's like, we don't. So it's like a continually, and I don't know about you, but coming from a religious background and being in, with that belief system and whatnot, I always, and similar to you, catechism. I went to catechism with a friend of mine, even though I wasn't Catholic. She wanted me.
Oh, you went to Catholic catechism?
I went to Catholic catechism, and the nuns kicked me out because I asked too many questions because it just didn't. I'm just like, what? What
was your favorite question? What question got you in trouble?
What was it that got me? I can't remember right now. I just know that it just didn't make sense that, gosh, what was it? That's a good question. I'm going to sit with that.
Well, I got into trouble we were studying sin. And there are different kinds of sins. There's the sort of bad sin, venial sin, and then there's the really bad sin, mortal sin. And if you commit a mortal sin and you die in that state of sin, you go to hell, right? So you need to get yourself to a priest post haste. Get to a priest and confess, repent, you get your absolution, and then it's all good again. So my question was, but sister, what if you're walking to the church to go to confession, and in front of the church you cross the street and you get hit by a car?
Yeah. Yep. Bump. Yeah. I feel like it had something to do with love and like unconditional love. Like, I don't understand why you go to hell if you do, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't understand that.
Yeah.
And so I think I kept pushing whatever they were talking about. I go, well, that doesn't speak to God's love. How does, they were just tired.
They were lucky to have you in that class for the other kids to hear that question, because by the time you're old enough to take those classes, you've already been so thoroughly indoctrinated, it would never occur to you to challenge the concept.
Well, I think that's what kind of scared them, because I was an outsider, and all of a sudden I'm coming in with all these questions, and look at all the kids. It was I was like opening up. They're
opening their minds.
What?
God forbid. Right?
Yeah, so I had to go to the nuns, and then they said, "We're sorry that you cannot return." I'm like, all right. But anyways, I was always pushing the box. Even as a child in I think it was like a Lutheran church, and they would have the little kids come up and they'd do a little kids sermon.
Mm-hmm.
And
sermon.
Little kids sermon right on the steps in front of everyone. And so the pastor would come down and sit with the kids and do a little child story sermon thing. It was very quick, and and here I go. I was always like challenging what they would say, because it from the get-go, just they were putting Jesus in a box. Like,
well, it didn't resonate for you.
None of it did. And they were putting God in a box, Jesus, and they're making it into this little thing. And it just, none of it ever, I always was challenging everything. And I did that, all the way to not being asked back to my professorship job. So there you go.
God. Oh my God.
Anyway, so all that to say is we're ants. So when we get to a point where we're like, we think we got it, we have some more understanding. This is it, guys. It's going to be bigger than that even. You know what I mean? So just hold on for the ride. And these layers will continue to come off as we become more and more enlightened.
Stepping stones, yeah.
Yeah. So keep wanting to learn, keep wanting that expansion. If you ever hear anybody say, this is how it is, there was no other way, you got to question that, because that
question authority. That's what we raised our children to do. Question authority.
Question.
And without disrespect, you don't have to be in people's faces, but question authority. Think for yourself. We were rebels. Yeah, I look like a rebel, right?
I think we have a lot of recovery.
A recovering Catholic here.
Yeah.
I served 17 years hard time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have some beautiful family members that are very embedded in it right now.
Well, I did that series on cults and mind control and propaganda. And in the context of that, I read a book by a guy called Stephen Hassan, PhD, who was a Moonie as a teenager. Family got him out of it. He's now kind of the world expert on cults and how to deprogram somebody. And he's written a couple of books about MAGA and, all that. And in the context of the political stuff, he did talk quite a bit about the religious stuff. He said people who are raised in a paternalistic religion, in an autocratic form of religion, and they almost all are. I mean, show me a religion where the women are in charge of the money, right?
Right.
Yeah. So they almost all are very dominating, male, patriarchal.
Yeah.
He said that those sort of people are fertile ground for mind control because they've been programmed already to relinquish their agency, to let other people tell them what's right and wrong and how things should be done. And it does lift a lot of responsibility off your shoulders.
Yes. And that brings me to the point when Kim from Intuitive View and another gal and myself did that special on imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And I spoke about it a little bit about, when I was a professor, when I was assistant dean of students, when I worked at the college there.
You almost can't say it.
I know, I'm like, anyway, and I can't tell you how many suicide attempts we had. One, because they can't meet the mark. We're asking too much. Mm-hmm. You have to be this. And if you're not going to get through that needle point camel.
Yeah. I have a book I haven't started to read yet because these other books keep getting in the way, but they follow along and I have to go where they lead me. But this book is calling my name. I heard the author interviewed on a podcast, immediately got the book. He was a student at Brown University and they do a year of foreign study. And for his year of foreign study, he embedded himself anonymously in the Jerry Falwell School, Liberty University.
Yeah.
And he went into it with one particular mindset and came out slightly differently. He was very willing to be critical and dismissive of the students. And he's very kind about it. He said, I made good friends and they're nice people, but, we're talking serious brainwashing here. And the book is all about his whole year of experience dealing with the politics and the social pressures and discrimination. And it's just that, and he's got a great sense of humor. It's called An Unlikely Convert or something like that.
Interesting. Now, Is that one you already did or you're going to do?
I haven't even read it yet.
Okay, you haven't
because
read it.
I've got this little plan, and I usually don't pick a book until the week before because they present themselves. And I'm kind of waiting for Mary Trump's new book, The Reckoning. You know, she's a clinical psychologist.
Yeah.
And her new book is about the PTSD from the last 5 years, the combination of, as she calls him, my dear uncle, and the virus, and has some coping skills in it. I really want to cover.
Oh, that'll be fabulous, because that's a real deal. That's the real thing, you guys. That's no joke. We've had each other as a community on here. A lot of people didn't have this community, and so and you know, we all have suffered. But like a lot of us say over and over again, thank God we had each other on here.
Oh, you feel the support.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wonderful. Yeah.
And speaking of ETs,
since we're on the subject,
what drew you towards that direction? And then,
well, you know, I told you that I
got sucked into it, and then all your, like you call it, all your 3 followers encourage you to do more. So tell us about that.
Well, in the context of my channel, I mentioned a book. Somebody expressed curiosity about the book, had nothing to do with ETs. Somehow it evolved into me on a regular basis doing a book. And then I one day sort of was out of ideas and said, if you guys have a suggestion, if I like it and I'm interested in it, I'd be willing to do a deep dive. And 100% of the people who responded, so 4 people, 100% of the people who responded asked me for ETs and UFOs. But this is a subject that I have been absolutely fascinated by since I first read Captured, you know, the book about Betty and Barney Hill, who way back in the mid-60s were abducted.
That's the first one I saw of yours.
Oh,
that's what got me hooked.
Great story.
Awesome
and
story.
I've always been fascinated by these personal narratives. And I try to put myself in their shoes and I think, what would it be like to look out the window? You know, and so many people have the similar stories. One of the people that I so admire is John Mack. R.I.P. He was a teacher at Harvard, and he's was a clinical psychologist at Harvard, and was approached by a friend. What's his name? My mind is blank now. Who wrote one of the other books, but my mind just went blank. It'll come to me. His friend came to him and said, "I have these people telling me these stories, and I don't know what to make of them." He was a psychiatrist, and so he fully expected to be dealing with people in real need psychologically. And he came out the other end saying, well, we've given them every test in the book. I've talked to them for hours and hours. We've done hypnosis. And these people believe they're telling the truth. They have no diagnosable issues. And they believe they're telling the truth. Nobody's lying, you know. They're not confabulating. They're not hallucinating. There's nothing for them to be gained by these stories. Harvard tried really hard to get rid of him, but he had tenure, and it became a huge confrontation. Eventually, he won, and then mysteriously was killed in a hit-and-run car accident shortly thereafter. Yeah, he is famous. He won the Pulitzer Prize before all this ET stuff for writing the definitive book on Lawrence of Arabia.
I'm writing these down. Lawrence of Arabia.
T.E. Lawrence, I believe. The something Prince. I can't remember the full name. I'm terrible. I read a book, the title, the author, and everything goes in one ear and out the other. I just remember, I really liked it. But I would recommend his book. And of course, I don't remember the name of that either, but I did do a video on him. And his book is all about interviewing the abducted.
Abducted.
Yeah. And it's all about all of these people who came to him, and he gets right down, because he gets the facts, and you can see his evolution from the scientific medical facts, and he moves from them into the more theoretical, esoteric, and the next thing you know, he's talking about spirit guides and reincarnation, and he fully believes all of it before he ends the book. It's so interesting.
Amazing. I love this stuff, and I think it's just amazing how people are able to communicate it out to us.
Yeah.
And you're one of those people. So,
well, I haven't had an experience like
no,
that.
but you're
I'm
able
a little
to.
offended,
You're
actually. They don't like my genetics or something. I don't know, but I wouldn't say I'd love to have an experience, but I'm curious about it. Yeah. However, I fully appreciate the courage of the people who speak out, because this upends their lives.
Now, I know someone personally. I've had some experiences, but I have someone personally who's had the ones that you're talking about, and she would be in her later 70s now, right? So this is back in the day, and she's driving a lot. It's like the same as everybody. She's driving along a kind of a more of a deserted road,
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, these lights, and I think. I even feel like they had a color to them. Maybe would it have been magenta. Anyways, I don't remember the color, but the lights, everything. She stops the car. Her car didn't stop, but she stops the car and gets out. Now, I'm sorry. I'm not sure I'd get out of the car.
I know.
But she said it was interesting. Because it was silent, and not only was it silent, and it's as big as a football field, round thing. And the thing that impressed her the most was it was silent,
and the birds and the crickets.
Everything goes silent, and this is in the South, so that it's very loud at night in the South. Those bugs are so loud you have to wear earplugs. No joke.
Yeah.
And so that's what impressed her was the silence. She said she was scared. She was very scared.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's something different, and so, and then it went off. Like as fast as it came in, it went off, and then she went on to her gathering, which, and I love her because she's like, well, guess what just happened to me? It wasn't like I would be like, do I share this? Do I tell people what you know what I mean? Nope. And then it comes out that someone else had experienced it too.
Wow.
And but anyways, I said, what time did you get to the party you were going to? Because did you miss any time? And she's like, no. She's like, I already checked that. Yeah, I was not taken.
Well, you heard the story of the Phoenix Lights.
The Phoenix Lights, yes.
So that was really actually all across all across Arizona and part of New Mexico, and was it Colorado? I can't remember, one other state. And it went on for hours and hours and hours.
Yeah.
And if you remember, the governor of Arizona came out publicly, had a press conference, dragged out a guy in a gray costume, an ET costume, and dismissed the whole thing as a big gigantic joke. Really did a disservice to these people. Thousands of people saw it. Law enforcement, pilots, people working at airports, the control tower, just such a variety of people saw it, and they were flooded with reports. Well, later, after he left office, he did another public announcement, and he said, I owe the people of Arizona an apology, because not only did it really happen, I saw it.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks a lot.
That's another good point. It's mind blowing, some of the stories they come out to try to cover up. I mean, what they think that we are going to take that. What was the one where they said that the new lights put in the park were bouncing off the clouds that made
all sorts of stories. Swamp
What?
gas, and just weather balloons.
I mean, they come up with the craziest stories for us to.
They're fully aware. Not only are they fully aware, but they, according to Paul Hellyer. Now, Paul Hellyer was the Canadian equivalent of, I think, the Secretary of State. He was the Minister of Defense. Maybe it's the Secretary of Defense. He was a minister in the Canadian government for more than one prime minister over a long period of time, and very well respected globally in international politics. Yeah, Jimmy Carter did too. And Paul Hellyer has, I don't know if it's still on YouTube. It was on YouTube 10 years ago. I watched it, a documentary where he was one of the interviewees. And he said, I personally have sat across the table from representatives of the Canadian government, the American government, and aliens. And of course, you know, if he hadn't had the weight of decades of public service and global respect, he would have been locked up. People just went crazy when they heard him say that. And at the same time, they did a very good job of keeping it on the down low, because it would have been just this enormous embarrassment. But Jimmy Carter, he's my hero. So Jimmy Carter left the Southern Baptist Conference, you know, the organization, about 25 years ago. He officially withdrew his membership. And when he was asked why, he said, because I don't like how you treat women.
Wow.
Yep.
Yay. We like him. Okay, so Lucian's putting up here July 24th through the 25th, the Hybrids Conference, ETs.
Love to go to something like that. Yeah.
Reason for being here. So it'll be on her website. It'll be a Zoom thing. Yeah.
Show. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you all are interested in more on this, well, on hybrids anyway, that's the place to go. So interesting. Okay, you guys in the chat, do you have any questions that you have for Irish Granny Tarot? Because she's pretty knowledgeable about some of this stuff. So you can, well, whatever knowledge you have, we're happy to have it.
Don't be too kind, and then I don't disappoint.
Yes, do Beverly Edwards? I don't understand this. Is this a question, Ron? Is this a question? Do you understand this question?
Yes, they do. I bet he's referring to the government people being in contact. I mean, I'm just jumping to conclusions, but that they do know that they're in contact.
So, you know,
that's the Hopi. Yes, that is actually yes, that they're either straight up alien or alien hybrids. Yeah. That's mentioned in, was it Linda Moulton Howe's book? It was mentioned in one of the books that we did. They talked about it quite a bit. They look very hybrid. Some of them have, you know, part animal, you know, like the Egyptian jackal god, that kind of thing. And there's a lot of mythology around the Kachinas that having to do with superhuman ability and
cool.
paranormal stuff.
Ooh. Yeah. Very cool. Let's see. Another question.
You know, a lot of Native Americans believed in, still do believe in, the sky gods. What do you think that's all about?
Right. Okay. Sorry, I was just looking at the chat here.
It's hard to find a question. They go by fast.
Yeah. Or to see what is a question, because they're communicating.
Purposes of Chaco Canyon. I don't know what that is. The name rings a bell, but it's not something I've researched. But if you could tell me, I might know about it without knowing I know about it, you know, read about it and forgotten. Story of my life.
Yeah, it does sound familiar. I don't.
Chaco Canyon. Chaco Canyon.
Okay.
Is that like the Pueblos?
They'll let us know. And
Yeah, they'll pick it back. Yeah.
Hi, Arlene. Welcome. Never late.
I love that people know so much about this stuff. I think.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Well,
great.
I feel, that it's all coming to light for a purpose.
There's a mind opening up.
There's a mind opening. It's like a collective conscious thing going on here.
Yes.
And, the goal here is, I feel, to kind of spark and help us step into remembering. Because
that's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
Because we already since we're all we're connected, it's just sparking the memory.
I read a book about this probably about 1964. It was a kid's book. They were crawling around in these archaeological digs. These children were with pots and treasures just sitting around, because in those days they weren't valued. But if it's what I think it is, they built cliff dwellings.
The cliff dwellings. Okay.
Am I conflating two different cultures?
She'll let us know.
Yeah, if it was the cliff dwellings, they were really smart. They were avoiding an intemperate climate. It was really hot, and they were getting away from into the damp, the coolness of the cliffs. But also, it was a protective thing. A defense against enemies, kind of like a moat around a castle, and you put down the portcullis and you're safe inside the castle. They would climb up into these cliff dwellings, pull up the ladders, and no one could get to them. Yeah.
Is this the
Anasazi? Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But then that could be an entirely different culture, and I don't know what I'm talking about.
Well, you have a remarkable memory. I mean, the fact that you know exactly what you said in catechism, the fact that you remembered a book that you read in 1964, a child's book.
We're all aliens. Isn't that the truth? We are.
Well,
we're all hybrid.
And that's what people are starting to feel. I mean, and understand their connection.
Well, we have junk DNA, right?
Right.
Because that makes a lot of sense.
Exactly. And what are you talking? There is a. And
Mesa Verde. I think I was thinking about Mesa Verde.
Okay. And Mesa Verde. Okay. And I feel like we have a fake one here in Colorado Springs for us to kind of see what it looked like. Like they brought it, I don't know.
Well, there's this whole theory. It's really interesting, and it's been years since I've read about this. Let's see if I can really mess it up. That people from Ireland actually ended up in the Gulf of Mexico because they were seafarers, and went up. Or they
were part of the Outlander.
That's right. They went up the Mississippi. And if you go all the way up the Mississippi, in various places, there are etched into the rock runes, RUNES, which is that it's like Ogham writing. It's based on a horizontal line. And where you place lines on that horizontal line, the direction, the height of them, and whether they're above or below the line, and in what it's a language.
Wow.
And they found this Irish Ogham writing etched into the rocks all the way up into Colorado.
Wow.
On cliff faces along the rivers.
Interesting.
Branching out from the Mississippi and going up. Yeah.
Wow.
And they have no explanation for it. They know that they're not modern graffiti. They know that they are as ancient as they appear to be. No explanation.
Wow.
That's the stuff I love. Yeah.
Yes, Who wouldn't?
They found how about they found ancient Egyptian beads buried under Stonehenge.
They did?
Yes, they think that the Phoenicians probably carried them. They were seafarers along the coast, kind of like by Lebanon, that basic area in the Mediterranean, Eastern Mediterranean. And they were really famous for being tradespeople by boat. And they were great mariners. And they went everywhere, a lot like the Vikings did. You know, the Vikings were in Russia. The Vikings took internal river paths from Scandinavia all the way down into Hungary, Russia, and they went down the Seine. They went through the city of Paris.
Wow.
I mean, think about that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
Sorry, I'm rambling.
no, this is all good stuff. I thought,
Sun daggers. I have to watch that.
yeah, that looks good. It's so funny because I like you'll be talking and I'm like, oh, I want to add that. I want to add, you know, I have something that I wanted to say, but I get so enthralled and then it goes
out, yeah,
out the other side. And you're so brilliant. Oh. You're such a great communicator. I'm always blown away. And wish I could.
Well, it was a survival mechanism, you know. I had 5 kids. I was outnumbered.
Oh my gosh. Yes. You guys, 5 kids. 5 kids, everyone. Okay.
Skinwalker Ranch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
you must have come across that a little bit in your studies.
Yeah. And there's a lot of rumor about it. I want to do a separate thing on Skinwalker Ranch. I mean, for one thing, any place where the government is bound and determined to keep everybody away. What's that all about? You know?
Right.
Well, you know, it kind of ties in this. Now, don't laugh. I know you guys are open-minded, and this is something that I want to really pursue. I've been reading a lot about it, listening to first-person narratives about it. There's a connection between Skinwalker Ranch, aliens, and Sasquatch.
Oh.
And orbs of light. And there's beginning to be this developing theory that, well, it's beginning for me, it's probably been around for other people, a theory that we're talking about a connection with other dimensions. We're not talking, it's physical. I mean, it is 3-dimensional and it's physical. If you reached out, you'd find hair on their bodies. Mm-hmm. But they come and go from other dimensions, and that there's a very large paranormal part of aliens and Sasquatch and, you know, then ordinary paranormal stuff, ghosts and, you know, stuff like that. But really it's all one and the same thing. Dr. Bruce Solheim, the professor who has that personal guide who is Anzar, who is an alien, he talked about that. His guide told him that. And it really blew my mind because I never said anything to him about the Sasquatch, and he brought all of this stuff out, that all of this stuff is connected. Our ability to understand it would be like trying to teach your dog algebra. It's just never going to happen. But there is an overlap of dimensions, different realities happening simultaneously. All time happens at the same time. There's no such thing as time. So we're sort of connecting once in a while, and some people connect with it faster or easier. Sometimes it's determined to connect with us, you know. And
so you're being encouraged to do a deep dive on the Skinwalker Ranch here.
Okay, I will.
And then this is interesting about the national parks.
Yeah, you know, they have there's a guy called David Pilates. It looks like Paul IDES. It's a Greek name. He did a whole series of books that are out of print now. They cost hundreds of dollars for a book I used to get at the library called Missing 411. And he divided them up into regions of first North America, but he's now done the whole world. And he talks about missing and sometimes found, often never found people who disappear in national parks and forest land. And he never uses the word Sasquatch. He never says that. But the implication in most of his books is that the children that are found will talk about being carried off by a mama bear who kept them warm and fed them berries. And the children will be 15 miles up 8,000 feet. Children never do that. Searchers will tell you that small children always wander downhill.
Downward.
They're not going to exert energy. They've been found over 2 mountains, at the top of a mountain, in the middle of a huge berry patch, not a scratch on them. They've been gone for 4 days. There's not a mark on them. And they have this story, and it's a repeating story that happens over and over. But adults also disappear. This one family, I believe this was in California, were on a day hike, very populated trail. On one side, a sheer cliff. On the other side, beautiful fields. And their children were ahead of them. And they watched their teenage daughter, not just within voice, within sight, stop suddenly, turn to the sheer cliff face, and there was a boulder that blocked their view. And she stepped towards the cliff face. And when they got there, she was gone. There was no crack in the cliff. There was no cave. There was nowhere for her to go up or down. And it was observed by a lot of people. It wasn't a story that they concocted because they murdered her.
Unfortunately, we have to look that direction too. But.
Right. No, there were eyewitnesses to this event that were not family members, didn't know them at all. And she just disappeared off the face of the earth.
Oh my gosh, that poor family.
And his books are full of stories like that, all taking place in the national park.
And this is Missing 411.
Missing 411.
And you can't get this book anymore.
You can get it used if you're lucky. Libraries will have it, except my library was closed during the pandemic.
Oh, so you can still get it in the library if
nobody has stolen it.
If no one's stolen it, that's right.
It's out of print. Very popular. And they did do a short documentary on YouTube about a couple of the cases. Very unsatisfying documentary because it barely scratched the surface of only a couple of cases. It's a huge story. Huge.
So aliens in Alaska have...
Yeah.
And you've heard... Okay, so...
I'd like to recommend a podcast. If people listen to podcasts, which I became addicted to when I started having to exercise, I would listen to podcasts.
Yeah.
It's called the Sasquatch Chronicles.
Ooh.
And this guy once a week just lets people tell their story. And another one, completely unrelated, happens every week, but the guy is in England. And it's called UFO Chronicles, just a coincidence.
Oh.
And he lets people call in and tell their stories. Absolutely mind-boggling. You could write off 700 stories as people looking for attention or they're psychotic or whatever. Thousands and thousands and thousands of stories. People cry.
Oh.
Their voices shake.
It's
unbelievable.
Oh.
Yeah.
So, Holly, I feel like you're right. A lot of this is going to... this is just the beginning. So we're just at the beginning of this awakening. And
a lot of people say that.
Yeah. So I feel like you're right. In the next 4 or 5 years, it's going to be really and more.
Well, it already is. I mean, it's on TV all the time now.
Right. Now we're
20 years ago, I would bring these topics up and people would just, ridicule you.
So thank you, Warrior Girl, for this
Books a Million.
For Books a Million.
There's also thrift.
Yeah.
Books.
Yeah.
Is that thrift books?
Thrift.
Yes.
Books.
That's a dangerous rabbit hole to go down.
Oh, this thrift books, that's addictive.
Yeah.
Pretty soon you have a library. It could fill a house.
Well, guess what?
Yeah. So let's see. Okay. So I'm looking at my question. I had a little list of myself here, and I know we're coming to the end here. I feel like let me know what you feel, Helen, about this message. In this awakening that we're in this stepping into this whole understanding that, yeah, we're not alone. And even more than that, that our spiritual awareness, our awareness of our connection to source and this expansion here, a lot of the fight is letting go of our programming. What we've been programmed with, right? You can look back on your life. You have it pretty. You're like, yeah, I know what my programming was. And is there anything in that programming that you still feel like you battle with yourself? Pre-programming that would stop you from really stepping into this expansion and collective knowledge that's coming in right now. And this is a question to all of you. You know, look at your lives. What is that? We've all been programmed. We know that. We know that from TV, news. It happens every day. But we have also been pre-programmed coming into the families that we came into. What was the story? What was the beliefs? What did that box look like? What does that programming look like? And what in that program is challenging you to open up to this expansion?
That's a really good question, because it highlights the fact that no matter how much work you try to do on yourself, you're still living in a context, a larger context. Mm-hmm. And our culture is so permeated with misogyny and racism and closed mind, patriarchal, autocratic, theocratic nonsense. Here's an example. A term I never use is rule of thumb, as in the rule of thumb is don't read those books late at night because you'll be scared. The rule of thumb comes from an old colonial law. Husbands were allowed to beat their wives with a stick that was no fatter than the thumb, the human thumb. That's where that expression comes from. And yesterday, somebody was talking to me about Airbnbs and real estate, and she said to me, you know, you're not supposed to call it the master bedroom anymore. And I said, oh, you're not? And she said, well, think about it a minute. And I went, oh my God, I suppose it's like saying the slave quarters are out back. Oh. Never even, I mean, so we are a product of our culture. We're a product of our time. We're a product of our upbringing. So you can only do as much as you can do. It's a process. And I think it never ends.
Now, that would be an interesting show, wouldn't it? To just go through some of these sayings and things that
my blood pressure would just, red line.
The rule of thumb,
isn't that awful? Isn't that just awful?
Awful. Interesting.
It's a process.
Yeah, wow.
Start out whatever we bring with us in this incarnation, and the rest of our lives is a gigantic lesson to try to achieve the light from our starting point. And so it's an uphill battle, and depending on what you've brought with you and your personality and your experiences and your environment, your journey is more or less uphill, has more or less number of potholes. It's like Kim said something that really resonated for me. I just opened my eyes. Was we all start out at the same place and we all have the same goal. And some people, their journey is like on the Autobahn, smooth, fast, no problems. Some people are on a dirt road with potholes. Other people take a detour and they end up in the woods, and their tires give out. And it's not our job to worry about their trip, because we have a responsibility to get to that goal and to do it the best way.
The best we can.
But we're all going to end up there. So it does no good to judge certain political people. It does no good, there's no point, because they're on a journey too. And if you read Mary Trump's book about her uncle, Too Little Too Late or Too Much and Too, I'm terrible. But it's Mary Trump's only book for the moment. His childhood was horrendous. I mean, horrendous. And it gives you a sense of.
So is mine.
I know.
I'm just saying.
I know. It's not excuse. It doesn't excuse people's behavior,
right.
But it gives you an understanding of what it is they're working with and what their struggle might be. And we don't all come in equally prepared to deal with what we're handed, and we bring with us the experiences of the past lives that are often a handicap.
Yes.
Then that's why you're here.
Right. We got to work through that stuff. And the thing to keep in mind is that we are connected. We all are connected. And so if we're a team, and we work together as a team to get to that goal, right? And if one of our teammates is down, we got to work together to lift them up. And so think of that, what's happening in our country right now. And the last thing a lot of us want to do is help some of the mind-blowing is just. So how do we do that? And I know you and I were talking a little bit about this before we got on, and it's just like, it's one thing to sit in our houses and be in this nice quarantine and being to be away from people. But when we're faced with it face to face in our face, how can we harness ourselves and step back out of situations, acknowledging that this person is in their human experience. This is where they're at in their vibrational level. And there's nothing I can do except send love from my heart, not from your mouth, because they're not going to hear it. Send it from your energy to them and just kind of step out of the situation. Easier said than done.
Well, I had an experience yesterday. I take a walk every day, and my route takes me through the huge parking lot of probably the biggest congregation church in town. Very, very, very fundamentalist. They just had a huge outbreak of COVID because they won't wear masks, So as I was walking through this parking lot, I heard a dog barking, which happens almost every Sunday. People leave their dogs in the car in the heat, So I went up to this truck and this poor dog, and they had left the windows open, which people don't realize doesn't matter. And I said to the dog as loudly as I could, because I was hoping somebody would hear me. There was really nobody around. I said, "What kind of an owner do you have that would leave you sitting in the car barking like this in the heat?" The dog looked at me. The dog stopped barking, listened to every word. I said, "I think you should jump out that window and run away. Come home with me, and you won't have to sit in the hot car." But then I went into the church, which I always do. My middle name is Karen. No, it's not, but I always do. And I said, I've done this so many times in this parking lot. And a guy was hanging out in the lobby, and I said, "Dog in the hot car." He didn't want to believe me. He said, "Well, I'm going to go check it out." And I said, "Well, you implying?" I mean, immediately it's terrible. It's so hard. I immediately was pissed. I said, "You don't believe me?" I said, "There's a dog right over there. I heard him barking from 5 blocks away. He's been barking his head off like crazy, and he's in this hot car." So I ended up having a very unpleasant conversation with somebody, I'm trying to do a good deed, but it's so hard because, we're talking about a very paternalistic attitude, a very, well, you're the woman, what do you know? And maybe I'm projecting. But Dr. Stephen Hassan, who wrote The Cult of Trump, who's the expert on cult mind
What's
control.
The name of that one?
Yeah, cult mind control. It's called The Cult of Trump. Stephen Hassan. He said that you don't approach people with bombarding them with facts. You don't try to use logic or reason. What you do is hopefully distract them from the reinforcement of the media, and at the same time remind them of who they used to be. Let's sit down and look at these photograph albums from 20 years ago. Do you remember the time we went to camp together? That kind of thing. it's almost impossible to find common ground. It's very difficult.
It really is. And I so need to hear this right now.
Yeah.
Because I'm going home for just under a month. I'm going to San Diego in August to September. But I'll still be working. I'll still be with all of y'all and still working on it. It's a working going home deal. I haven't been home in 2 years, right? Due to all this. So, but everybody.
Read this book. He gives you strategies.
Every place I'm staying are part of this cult.
Yeah, everybody you're relating
everybody
with.
And so
this book will give you strategies. It'll give you tools, what to say, what not to say. It's very helpful.
I'm gonna get this because
I've lost my 4 closest friends and my only 2 brothers that I'm close to this whole insanity. It's been horrible. And it's a huge struggle with some of them every time I attempt to reconnect right back into the nonsense. I'm biting my tongue.
I know. So I'm going to need, we have 121 people with us right now. So I need all your 121 prayers for me in August when I'm sitting with these people.
It'll be okay. Practice ahead of time in your head.
Rochelle, we'll have to meet for a drink or something, Rochelle. Rochelle lives in San Diego. She lives down in the gas lamp area.
Oh, that would be good. It will give you strength. No, I'm serious.
Oh, I know. It's going to be interesting. It'll be interesting.
Pockets of MAGA, it makes me think of, little abscesses of infection.
Apparently, all of the people I know are not all of them, but the ones I'm staying with.
Is this relatives or just close friends?
One, I consider them kind of relatives. So one, she's my sister. We were together since we were 4, right? And she's outspoken. However, that being said, she knows that I'm completely opposite than her. And so she's pretty good about trying to.
She doesn't poke.
Right.
Yeah.
And the other one.
I have a couple of pokers in my group.
Oh, see.
Yeah.
That would be interesting. Really I don't know what I do with pokers.
Well,
however, that being said, I'm curious about being in the energy, right? So, hi, Kathleen. Like living in the energy, right? So I'll be a week at each place. So it's like living in this energy for a week,
Read that book. Yeah, it'll help. It really helped. It helped me. And I'm by nature confrontational, so it's hard, to not. I have scar tissue on my tongue from.
Oh, biting down.
Really hard. Really, really hard. I think a lot of people are facing that issue right now. This is what it felt like in I don't know, maybe March of 1860, right before the Civil War broke out. I think this is what it felt like.
That that's kind of crossed my mind a lot. And before we were reading, the question was, are we going to go into a civil war? Before the election. Are we going to? Well, we do see pockets of stuff, but we don't see a full-on civil war. We kept. I got that. All the readers were getting that same thing, that we will see pockets. And
do you know who Denise Siegel is?
Denise Siegel,
the astrologer.
Yes.
She and I are.
Yeah, she's been on your channel. Yes.
Yeah, we're working on something. We have a little project going.
She's brilliant too.
Picking out people that I have a bad feeling about.
Okay.
And she's doing their astrological chart, and I'm doing a little bit of a biographical background. I'm going to read their cards. And I gave her a couple of names the other day, and she got back to me and said, "Oh my God, how did you know that this? It's palpable negative energy." Yeah.
Yes. And so, and did you guys talk about like what's coming up? Is that what Yeah. So I shared a dream that I had. We're all
good.
We're all tapping in on it. So
Yeah.
just be safe and continue to send that. What we have power over is what we send out. So let's send out love.
And I think physical safety, I'm not sure that for most of us, physical safety is the issue.
Right.
It's more about protecting your mental health and your psychological
That's true.
and emotional and spiritual state, because it's demoralizing and it's sad.
Yeah.
And it makes you fear for your grandchildren and your children.
Exactly. Those types of things.
Yeah.
And then, Kim, she's in London right now.
Oh, in lockdown, right?
Yeah. She just got out, but she
Okay.
said she had a good 8 days of it. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. How people view the United States right now. It's embarrassing. But I said that a long time ago when Trump was even got on the ticket, and I'm like, okay, that's embarrassing.
Yeah.
That was way.
My relatives in Ireland are always asking me, what the hell is going on in the United States? Don't blame me. I don't know. Yeah.
And yeah, Ron, we are more powerful than we think. So when we do send the prayers out for our globe and for what's happening here in the States, we do have that power of prayer that can move mountains. So let's step into that.
Thank you, Ron, because that's something that Irish tend to be glass half empty, and I tune into the energy and I forget to remind myself of that. It's absolutely true. It really is.
Yeah, foreigners know more about the American. That is, Connie, you've got that going on right. So my grandma was extremely Irish. Her dad came over on the boat and all, and I'm so proud of him that he did that on his own. But anyway,
can you imagine?
And she tells me the stories and like that. I'm like, wow. But I was just looking around because I usually have her little. I have so many little things around her that I have of hers that is all Irish little sayings and stuff.
Think about this. He came over on the boat and you're proud of what he achieved because it was so difficult. And he was white and he spoke English.
He was white and spoke English.
Yeah.
Yep. That's absolutely right.
Just imagine.
Immigrants are brave. I don't know why I went into that. It was something that we were talking about. You guys, they all know I get like this. We're at an hour and a half, and all of a sudden my brain starts going.
You were talking about other countries wondering, and we're being embarrassed by our politics, and they're wondering.
Oh, right. And then you started talking about your Irish family, and I thought of my grandma, and I could just see her. She was quite a force to be reckoned with. I just wish she was here. I would love to know what she was. Oh gosh, I could just hear her. She just could. She was like a sailor.
I learned to swear at the knee of my grandmother, and I have to really be careful on YouTube. She was quite eloquent. I always say, what they need to do is send in a group of mothers and grandmothers into the White House. We clean that place up in a week.
Oh my gosh, done. Oh, Grandma, I miss her. Yeah, she was all of 5 foot and strong as nails, and she worked for GM back in the day. She was born in 1922, and she went to college. She did everything a woman is not supposed to.
Where was your family from in Ireland? Do you know?
I knew you were going to ask me that, and I was going to try to.
It doesn't matter.
My papers because I never remember.
It's a very small island. It's about the size of LA County.
I know, and I feel like there's 2 spots. One was on the coast, and one was like right in the middle. Boop. And they do a lot of weddings there. I do know that, like right in the middle there.
I don't know.
Yeah, and there's another thing I wanted to say when we were talking. I remember, see, it comes back. So at one point, you guys, and they're all, I know they're laughing right now because I do this. When I was at Stonehenge, they had a Celtic ceremony going on. It was right during some kind of something going on in the solar system. But anyways, we got to witness a ceremony, a Celtic ceremony within the stones. So that was pretty cool. A druid ceremony, yeah.
Oh my God, that'd be wonderful.
Oh, it was really cool.
So interesting.
I have a picture. It's very haunting picture. My son, and then the background you have the Stonehenge, and it's a little bit blurry, and the people in their robes in Stonehenge. It's a haunting picture, but really beautiful.
Well, those things are so abstract. We see two-dimensional photographs of them, and we have a stereotype in our head. And it's a whole other thing to experience it in real life. And the Navajo were a matrilineal society, the matriarchy. So that's why. In Ireland, they have in Newgrange. Are you familiar with Newgrange?
Mm-hmm.
So, for a long time, they just thought they were rolling hills. And then they discovered they were these underground chambers,
right,
situated with the stars. And I won't even attempt to pretend I know what was going on there. But I went there. And, abstract, right? This will be fun. It's the only touristy thing I did. And they took us in to the chamber all the way down. And they have a video, I guess, or computerized lights set up so that when you go down, they completely block the light, and it's like nighttime the way the Druids did it.
Ooh.
You can feel the energy in that place. I cried. I got goosebumps. My husband thought I was going to have to be medicated. And then they shine a light for the sun, the way it would happen in nature. Oh my God. The significance of those things are so abstract. The significance is so abstract that we just don't understand how they moved people emotionally and spiritually at the time. If they have the power to do that to us, we're so sophisticated.
Yeah, right.
It is a remarkable experience. I would recommend, if you ever get out of quarantine and travel somewhere, do something like that. Go to some ancient site and just soak it up.
Yes. I remember, when I traveled all through there, when both my kids graduated from high school, we would take a trip to wherever they wanted to in Europe. And
so good.
It was such a blessing, but especially, and I see some people, I'm an empath, people are saying empath. It's intense, guys. Whenever you hit a new land, even you can even sense it in new towns. The feel is so different.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to experience the thumbprint there. And so in its new energy. So you got to be aware that it's going to be very different. Each place you go with like that, it's very powerful. And the old.
Yeah, don't dismiss going someplace because it's maybe a tourist spot. It's like, oh, the Eiffel Tower, I've heard of that a million times. Although specifically not the Eiffel Tower, something older.
Yeah.
Don't dismiss those things because there's a reason why those sites were chosen by the ancient people. And there's a human history, a weight of emotion and human presence that is palpable and can't be described verbally. Very significant, very meaningful.
Yeah. So I was telling Lucienne about this soon. When I went to Rome, I could not stop weeping.
I know.
No wonder. Where's the wine? Give me a glass of wine. I need another glass. I got to get through this. Yeah.
Italy is absolutely rotten with archaeology. It's everywhere. You walk down the street and there'll be a vacant lot. And if you look over, that's not just stones, that ancient inscribed columns. They simply don't have the money. The government doesn't.
Yeah.
And it's just out there and it's everywhere. And the wealth of it, mind boggling.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and this is a good point. I know that I've had past lives in Scotland, and I knew that as a child. I was so anyway. That's a whole nother show.
I'd love to hear about that.
So when you some of these feelings, yeah, it could be part of something that you are remembering.
Yeah.
As well.
Well, like Om Seti. I don't know if you saw that book that we did about the woman in England who was unconscious, declared dead as a 3-year-old, and came back, reading hieroglyphics and familiar with ancient Egyptian, and became the world expert on this one particular pharaoh and place. There is a statue in Egypt. You see it in every book. It's white-ish, and it's a guy with one foot kind of in front of the other. He's very erect and he's straight-legged. One foot in front of the other, and he's holding a staff on the ground. Does that ring a bell? Yes. So it's in the Museum of Archaeology in Turin, and it's about 2 stories high. The statue is, I may be exaggerating, but it's at least 2 stories high. And I got out of the elevator and came around the corner and saw this statue, and like that, and started to cry. My poor husband, I think he's very concerned for my stability at this point. But this is a statue that I have looked at in books since I was about the 3rd grade. Yes. And it spoke to me. That's all I can say. I don't know why. And that whole reincarnation thing is, I was probably somebody's maidservant. I know, 2 stories high. And here's the thing, once you experience that, sometimes if you acknowledge it as being part of you or part of your past life, that takes care of some of the karmic connection. So don't negate what you're feeling or going through. Yeah, connect into it, fill it out, and see if it's something that speaks to you as part of your past life that you then can kind of release. Also learn from. Yeah. Yeah. All right, you guys, this has been so fun, and we could go on all day. Probably would. Get the tea out and chit chat more. So I just had so much fun, and I hope I know they all did, because I had a wonderful time. It's so rare. Until I got this channel, it was so rare to have the opportunity to talk about these ideas. Most people are not interested. I think people on this channel, your channel, people on my channel, I think they should give themselves a pat on the back, because they're some of the rare people who think beyond the everyday, the mundane. There are big ideas out there. There's stuff for us to learn, and it's wonderful to be able to share it, and I'm so grateful. Thank you so much. Yeah, and we're so grateful for you for expanding our mind with the book reports, because I don't know about, I know some of my family here, when we start reading books, it's like a 2 seconds and then we're sleeping. You know what I mean? It's even if it's a good book, it's hard to read anymore. I don't know. It's well, I'm always taking notes now. My husband walked by the other day and he says, "Well, what are you doing?" And I said, "I'm getting ready to do this." He goes, "Are you going upstairs to do one of your seances?" I absolutely love it. So now we know what the world thinks of us. Now we know. But the thing I love about it is that it just sounds like he still loves you, adores you, and it supports you in this, right? Well, 42 years, it's a life sentence, Debbie. He's like, it's not a choice anymore. That's correct. That's correct. Yeah. And here, so I every chance I get, I want to pull one of these, because I just got them and they're so fun. They're oh yes. Yeah, so we're gonna. Oh, is that Pussy Riot? Yes. Yes. Yep. Gosh, good recognizing. Yeah, good recognizing. So I'm gonna pull for a card, a message for all of us. Thank you. We've hung in there. 133 of us hanging in there today. So let's pull a message for all of us. Molto grazie. Yes, and you'll have to you do
you do a greeting, and
right.
then you do
Right.
a goodbye, don't you, in Gaelic?
Well, I had to look them up. No, some of it I knew, but I had to look some of it up and try as hard as I could. I know I don't pronounce the very first thing I say. I know I pronounce it incorrectly, but I placate myself by saying, well, I'm a foreigner. What can you say? I say, did you? And it's a little more guttural, but that's the best I can do, which basically means hello. And then I say, Caid mia falcha, which means a 1,000 welcomes. And then at the end, I say Slangafoil, which means basically see you later. And then Slancha is really kind of like a drinking, it's down the hatch to your health, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But under the circumstances of the pandemic, I thought a wish for people's health was probably a good idea. So Slancha.
Slancha. I
Slancha.
love it. All right,
You're
so we're gonna go with this one, and we have Lizzo is coming in, and she says to us, "Don't wait until it's too late to get what you want. No woman is an island. Choose self-love. Choose life." Love it. I will take
wiser words were never spoken.
Wise words. Choose life. No woman is an island. No one's an island. No one's an island. Anyway.
Well, I think women are really good about connecting. I think women are very good about finding community and making community where they are.
Yes.
And I've noticed that about this, how much I appreciate that. A lot of my viewers are women.
And this goes way back. I mean, to when, we had to get together in support of each other to sew blankets. You know what I mean? Yeah. Each household needed a certain amount of blankets. And when there was a new person coming in, you had to go and help them make, so you'd come together like that. And that's how the ladies.
And if you didn't entertain each other, then your life was particularly dull because there was nothing else but work.
Right.
Drudge work.
Drudge work. Yep.
We found our meaning from each other.
Yes. And empowering each other. So
yeah.
I send you all off with empowering blessings and love. And we will see you all soon. Blessings, and thank you again.
Thank you, Slancha.
Slancha. I love it.